Okay, got what you need? Huh?
What do I need?
Well, you're supposed to find the information on that.
Stuff reads like stereo instructions, man. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Hey, try this.
Okay. I found out one thing. 7 out of 5 people don't know how to do fractions.
You're right.
I like it better this way. It made more sense.
Alright, we'll do it that way.
Okay, cool. I mean...
it does make sense. The block is upside down.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
Here we go, see? I was in the right.
You're right.
Very good. Very good. Blowing out all the galley ports and stuff, the oil passageways, making sure we have nothing to contaminate the oil. And we're going to be do a final wipe again, and then we're going to set the bearings in, plastic gauge crank, set the main caps on, and take it from there. Alright, in a bit. Okay, we're going to start putting the bearings in. As soon as you break the seal, if you mess up, you cannot return these to Summit. So, say like you ordered the wrong size, or whatever, undersized or oversized, and they were the wrong thing. As long as you don't break this plastic seal, you can return them. So we're going to break the plastic seal because I need them, and they are the right ones. So I'm going to start laying in the bearings into their respected journals, and we're going to lay the crank in. So there's going to be a whole succession of steps that we have to take, and I'll just keep filming as we go along in little clips. I don't want to just show you a big 25-minute clip, so I'll be back when we got the actual bearings in their respective places. Alright, see you in a bit. When you read these, this is going to say on the back of them, it says upper, which is the top half, which feeds the cam journals. But don't be like my brain doesn't process too well. I thought this was lower because it's on the bottom, but it's not. It's the upper part of the block. So you have the oil hole and you got the oil groove. So you do is you place the tang in place and you just push down. Make sure that they're flush here with the edges. And you just progress along the way. And we made sure that all our journals here were all wiped dry and cleaned. Any contamination behind this bearing and this journal will be nothing but a catastrophe later on. So you want to make sure that's absolutely, completely clean. Okay, so now we're going to do the rear main seal, which also takes, there's another step here on the rear main seal because you got to set the thrust bearing on the, come on boy, there we go. You got to set the thrust bearing here, which is the end play of the crankshaft, and there's a procedure that you have to do there. Alright, so we'll bring you back after that. Alright guys, we're going to check clearances now. We're going to use plastic gauge. This is sealed powers plastic gauge. You get 2 sleeves. It comes in the kit. You have 2 to 6 thousandths clearance on the red, and then the green it's 1 thousandths to 3 thousandths. So we're going to be using the green because our crank tolerances are in this parameter, not the red one. So we're going to set the red one aside. I was just showing you. And here's the actual plastic gauge coming out of the sleeve. So when you have this, make sure you don't throw away the sleeve because it has its own little measurements there. Every one of these is a gauge for you when you tighten and torque down your caps, you're going to have to match up the crushed plastic gauge to this to see what you have for room in between. Okay, we have a little, if you can see it, see a little bit of plastic gauge laying on top of the journals. We're going to do it all together. I'm going to start laying in the caps now. Also, an addendum to this, you actually have inches or you have metric, millimeters, so it all depends what your application on, where you are. You got to take that into mind. So you got to look at the sleeves, make sure you're measuring in inches or a CA or metric. Alright, so we're going to start laying the caps down. I'm not going to show you every step of the way, but on the caps, Joey can pan in, it shows an arrow pointing front of the motor, and there's usually a stamping mark as number 1. This is designated as this one. So when you do take these motors apart, for the guys that haven't done it or looking to do it, make sure whatever order your caps came off, you got to keep them in order. You can't take the 1 cap and put it over here on number 3. Number 1 has to be number 1 and it has to face forward. So a lot of them already have the arrow in, they take out a lot of the guesswork, but some motors don't. So make sure the order in which it came out is the order it has to go back into place. You'll have issues down the road and it won't be too far of a drive because you'll be clunk. Alright guys, we got to tighten these caps now. We got them all in place. We got the plastic gauge. We got this style of handle on here. This crank cannot turn with the plastic gauge in it because what's going to happen is it's going to smear the plastic gauge and you got to start all over again. So this is just a reference for us to see if this crank moves either way. What we're going to do now is we have to do this in increments. We can't just tighten it. It calls for 95 foot-pounds of torque on these cap bolts. But you can't do that all at once. You got to do it slowly. You got to actually ease the bearing in and ease everything in. So we're going to start with 20 pounds. Then we're going to work up 20 pounds from there. Will be 40. And then after the 40, we'll jump up to maybe 90. And then 95 total said and done. So there'll be a sequence of doing this 3 times. So we're going to start with the middle and work our way out. So we'll do this one, then we'll do this one, then we'll do this one, we'll do this one, and then we'll do the last one on the end. So got the torque wrench set to 20. I'm going to turn. Once you hear that click, that's it. That's 20 pounds. You don't keep. It's a steady, even pressure. That's it. That's 20 pounds.
And if you notice, Mark's pulling the bolts from here. That's so he loads up against the cap. You don't want to sit here and pull it because what's happening, you're going to twist that cap. If you're doing what Mark's doing, he's pulling it straight this way, you're actually pulling a bearing here and you're getting an even torque.
Try a brownie batter or cookie dough donut as well.
95 pounds now. The order in which we're working in, the manual, the books, that all have books that we were looking through, they don't give you on the block, they don't give you a set order where you have to start from one way and work your way out. They say on the small, lighter engines, they want you to work from the center out. So I'm going to use that same practice on this. I'm not going to do anything different. I mean, it's good practice, and we'll just keep that good practice. As you can see, 95 pounds of torque. It's pretty substantial. Alright, so these are all torqued through. Our handle never moved. And also on the 4-bolt main, when you get the 4-bolt mains, they want you to do the inline bolts first and then go out to the outside. So they want you to do the ones that are closer to the center of the block first, and then you can do the perimeter bolts. So that's another thing, if you have a 4-bolt main and that's what you're doing, do the inboard ones first and then work your way out. So, we're going to take the caps off now. There's a lot of installation and taking stuff apart, but you have to do these steps to ensure a proper job, because you don't want to spend all this time and money and effort and do things half-assed and then have a motor blow up on break-in, you know. So you want to make sure you do it right. So install it, take it apart, check everything for clearances, make everything is copacetic. That's a fancy word.
I can't say it.
I can't even think it. Alright, you ready? We're gonna check one at a time. The copacetic. Can't sing it.
Don't sing it.
I know. I don't want to sing it. Out of my head. Alright, so we might have to get a hammer and lightly tap on this to get this cap off.
Right behind you on the engine.
So, these are things that you don't want to jam up. Now you see the plastic gauge? Can you see it all squashed in there? Is it picking it up, Joe? It's kind of weird and dark.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not really picking it well.
It probably can, but you see there's a line there. That's the plastic gauge. So now we're going to grab our scale. 1 2.5 thousandths. So we're not in millimeters, we're in inches. So 1, which is this big flat white one, 2, and then 3 thousandths. We're right on 2 thousandths, which is perfect, absolutely perfect. So we know that clearance is perfect for that journal. We're going to take the next one off and check it that way. And I say that I don't know what I'm doing with the internals. I have an idea. I don't do enough of it. What do you mean? Don't shake your camera head. Alright, but I do know what I'm doing, somewhat. You know, I'm not a mechanic, but I play one on TV. Alright guys, so I'm going to take that apart and we'll check them. And if there's any difference in that, if there's something really wrong, we'll bring the camera back and we'll show you and we'll see how it is and how it goes. So we're just going to take these apart and check them like we checked them. And if everything's good, we reassemble it again. Okay guys, we're starting to use the, not starting, we're actually using the Lucas assembly lube. As you can see, there's like a green film on the bearings now. I'm going to put the rear main seal in. There's a procedure that they recommend, and always, I know the guys that have been doing this since the beginning of time, but you can't go wrong. If something goes wrong and you're using manufacturer's specs and recommendations, I'm pretty sure there won't be a problem. So you have this little, they call it a tool. It is a tool, but it's kind of like a Teflon sleeve. And they want this bearing so it's not flush with the edges of your block here. They kind of want it so it's twisted, so your seam is actually, you don't have a seam going across here and here. They want this thing kind of cocked a little bit. So what happens is when you put the mating part of it on it, you won't have this complete seam going across your bearing, your block, and your cap. So they want that off-centered. A lot of guys will say just blob silicone on that. Never had an issue, don't worry about it. That's fine, but that's your block, not my block. I'm going to do it this way. So, and also, if you look at the lip, it has a specific way that it goes in. You can't, don't mess this up, because if you mess this up and you do all this, you're going to have it leak. You want to make sure that this little part of the tab, the tang here, is facing in. You see the lip here? Okay? See how it's set up there? That's what you want. And then it's just a matter of pushing this in, pushing it down. Okay? See that little tab here? This little Teflon tab? So you don't rip the back end of it. And you just pry it out. that. There you go. You don't want it that much, but like that. Okay, guys, so that's what we're looking at. I think, I don't know, Joe, what do you think? A little bit of silicone on the back side of this to hold it in place?
What's that?
See how it keeps springing up?
They don't recommend it according to everybody that I've
Okay.
seen, but
But when we pull this one off, it had a little bit of silicone, so I'm seeing it bounce up like that. But I guess once the cap goes down, it'll hold it in place. Alright, so that's that. That's the rear main seal, the bottom half of it. You don't have a complete seam going across the block, the cap, and the seal. So you got a little bit off center. See it? It's higher here, lower there. And that should do. And that's what the manufacturer's recommendations is. So we're going by that. Alright, so we're going to grease up the rest of the caps. We're going to reset the crank. And we plastic gauged right across. And it was dead nuts. And the guy at the machine shop, when he had the block, he said whoever did the line bar on this thing, on the crank, he said it was a perfect job. So that was, I said, alright, so we're going to do that. And I'm not going to film me putting caps on and tightening sequences. We'll bring it back when the crank's in and spin it. Alright, see you in a bit. It's a 75-pound internal piece of equipment. It's not going to spin like super easy, but it's got a nice smooth feel to it. And we set the thrust bearing on this. The thrust bearing is the last main bearing. You have two sides to it. And what we did was we tightened the first to the fourth, naturally working center out. And what we did was there's a couple ways to do it. You can take screwdrivers. Don't tighten up the last cap here. You just have it snug. You take a couple of screwdrivers and you work the crank. You kind of pry it forward, pry it back. You do that several times. And what it does is that sets the thrust washer, which allows the end play of the crank moving back and forth. There's a tolerance for that. So now we're going to get the dial indicator and check what we have for thrust. And then after that's said and done, you tighten this down to the recommendations, which is the 95 foot-pounds. You know, all the journals are all set up with assembly lube. There's nothing dry. Nice and nice clean, but it's got a nice turn to it. Feels good. There's no clunking. There's no grinding. There's no hesitation. So with that said, we got that all set up, and we're just going to check end play now, and then that'll be it for this series, and that'll be crankshaft install. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll bring you back on the thrust to see what we have for thrust and what they spec for end play. And after that, tomorrow will be Saturday? Saturday we're going to start installing the pistons and filing rings. That's going to be fun.
oh yeah.
Alright, so I'll see you when we get the thing on. Dial indicator and we'll check for end play.